Hello everyone, my name's Zenitsu, and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at BT17, and BT17 offers us lots of new and powerful tools in order to build and iterate on some new and existing decks. And today's deck I'm going to be taking a look at is going to be one that a lot of people tend to enjoy, and that's going to be of ShineGreymon. So ShineGreymon really isn't doing anything different than what it was doing all the way back in BT13. It just has new tech and tools to utilize its cards a little bit differently. So it still wants to play out its Marcuses and utilize its Marcuses aggressively, but it also has the ability to suspend your Marcuses down to start utilizing them more of a value engine, putting more emphasis on your Digimon being the main point of aggression. And that's what a lot of the BT17 cards are doing, is just incentivizing you for utilizing your Digimon to suspend the Marcus down to gain the extra benefits. The deck also has lots of new defensive tools to be able to help itself control and survive better than ever at the cost of a little bit of aggression. And as far as what the actual weaknesses of the deck are, outside of the fact that it's your usual stack-based deck, so if you don't see your pieces, you're not really playing the game, it also has a tough time with big invincible walls and large bodies in general, just because if the body is large enough, it might not actually have enough DP reduction to be able to get rid of it, and if the body is basically just this big invincible wall that has protection against what your removal type is, or just protection in general, then you don't really have a whole lot of ways to DP increase yourself, so it makes scaling those walls a little bit on the more difficult side. But with the new cards, as I kind of already mentioned before, you're trading off this aggression that the deck had before for some extra control and survivability, making it so you actually have a little bit of a harder time finishing games as fast as what the deck used to do. But outside of that, it's still a really powerful deck to play around with just because of what all of these new pieces and additions are doing on top of the shift in the overall metagame. With all that said and done, let's just dive right into the deck profile. Starting off with the Digitamers, there's two bases that you could run. One is going to be more offensive focused and the other is going to be more control and defensive focused. And the eggs kind of reflect this, with me personally wanting to go the more control route because that's where a lot of the new pieces are leaning towards. So I'm going to be using 4 copies of the BT12 Koromon for some extra DP reduction. But if you're going to be going on the more offensive side, then you're going to want to use BT14 Koromon because it's just one of the best draw engines that Red has available to it, while also being Koromon in name, so it works with a lot of our cards. And this brings us to the level 3s. So the core level 3s of the deck that aren't really going to be changing between variants and builds is going to be the ones that we're running 4 of. So that's going to be 4 copies of the BT13 Agumon, because this can just make a Marcus into a Digimon for free, which is really good at ensuring that we have extra ways to use our Marcuses. Then the inheritable ability is also pretty decent, where it allows us to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with 3k DP or less, so we could use a whole bunch of our DP reductions to get them inside of the range for this to actually remove their Digimon. And then I'm also going to be running 4 copies of the BT12 Agumon because this is the deck's main dedicated searching or digging tool, because it lets us check the top 4 for any Greymon named Digimon and a Marcus Tamer, which that's just a lot to search through, and being able to hit multiple targets is really good. Then the inheritable ability isn't deleting the Digimon, it's just giving us more DP reduction to play around with, so that way we could kind of spread it out and hit lots of bodies on the field, or stack it all up to try to DP reduce one larger body. And then as far as the rest of the rookies, you could kind of play around with whatever you feel like it fits inside of the deck. I highly recommend the Agumons that are also dinosaurs. So I'm just going to be choosing to run 2 copies of the EX4 Agumon because it has the nice start of main ability, where if we have a red or yellow tamer in play, we get a gain of memory. So we ideally are just going to move them out, gain the memory, and then use that memory to enhance a lot of our plays. Then I also like his inheritable ability also giving us extra access at a nice draw engine in of itself. Then the last two rookie slots I'm going to be using are going to be for BT16 Agumon. So BT16 Agumon, because I am in the yellow base, and I know yellow doesn't have as great of a card draw if I was running, say, the red base, I need to make up for that somehow, and this is a really good way of doing that because its on-play ability lets us check the top 3 cards for our deck and add a 2-color card from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom. So this is just a way to grab almost everything in the deck because the vast majority of our cards are 2 colors. Then the inheritable ability isn't too shabby either on just reducing the opponent's security's Digimon's DP, so our Digimon or our Marcuses have an easier time surviving when we're going to be aggressing into their security. Then when it comes to the level 4s, again, the main level 4 of the deck is what I'm going to be running 4 of, which is going to be the BT12 ShineGreymon. So the BT12 ShineGreymon lets us play a Marcus if we don't already have one. Unfortunately, this effect doesn't really do anything if we don't have a Marcus on our field, but we have ways on utilizing our Marcuses both offensively and defensively. So this deck, compared to a lot of others, actually can potentially utilize this ability multiple times, which is really good. Then the inheritable ability is doing the exact same thing as the BT12 Agumon for some extra DP reduction goodness. Then the other core level 4 of the deck that's not going to be changing no matter what is going to be the 1 copy that we're allowed to run of BT13 ShineGreymon. So this just lets us search our security stack for a red or yellow tamer, play it for free, and recover. It's just a really good card at making sure that we can grab back whatever Marcus is in our security if one was put there, or if one was just already in there and we didn't exactly know. Then it just lets us grab that out and play it for free, so that way we have extra ways to be able to get out our Marcuses. Then it also has this great inheritable ability that's doing the exact same thing as the BT13 Agumon for more deletion-based goodness. Then when it comes to the other GeoGreys, you could kind of play around with whatever you feel like. I'm going to be choosing to run 2 copies of the EX4 GeoGrey because it's, again, doing the exact same thing as the EX4 Agumon. Just being able to gain a memory is really good, especially in raising if we can't necessarily promote and gain value off of our when digivolving abilities. That's where this kind of effect comes in handy. And then the draw engine just, again, lets us be able to have more draw power, which is something the yellow side tends to lack a little bit. Then the last champion of the deck is going to be 2 copies of the brand new BT17 ShineGreymon. So this is a really good card, not only because its inheritable ability is doing the same thing as BT16 Agumon, but the extra usability on being able to utilize our Marcuses differently is the big appeal for this card, especially since this is also DP increasing our Digimon. So we could use its when attacking ability to suspend a yellow tamer down to be able to gain plus 3000 DP for the turn, which does carry through our evolutions. And then when it comes to the level 5s, I'm going to be running 4 copies of the BT13 ShineGreymon. So this card is another mandatory 4 of. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about this because this is one of the primary ways that we're going to be setting up and playing our extra Marcuses. Because its when digivolving ability lets us play a Marcus from our hand for free, disregarding if we already have one or not, which is just doing the same thing as BT12 ShineGreymon, just better. Then it also has a nice all turns ability where when one of our red or yellow tamers is deleted, we get to place a Marcus from our trash to the bottom of our security face down, essentially be able to keep our tamers in the game, not only just extending our life, but making it harder for the opponent because they don't want to check that tamer in security, because then it's just going to get played for free, putting them in a no-win situation. Then its inheritable abilities doing that same thing as its all turns ability, so it doesn't matter if you're in ShineGreymon or in a higher stage Digimon, we're always going to have that access at being able to recover our Marcuses. Then the new inclusion of the deck, which is optional tech. So again, this is kind of where you have some flexibility as far as the other ShineGreymons. I'm just going to be using 2 copies of the BT17 ShineGreymon. So the BT17 ShineGreymon is really good because this is another card that's promoting us being aggressive with our Digimon, because during your turn, while you have a suspended Tamer, this Digimon gets plus 3000 DP and piercing, which is really good because obviously we're going to want to pair it up with the BT17 ShineGreymon, so that way we could attack, suspend a Marcus down, ideally Digivolve into this mid-attack, so that way it's a plus 6000 DP boost plus piercing, plus the opponent's security is going to be weakened, so it just makes this type of a card really good and easy to use. Then the other big appeal for this card is its when Digivolving ability and when attacking ability, where we get to suspend one of our yellow Tamers down and one of the opponent's Digimon gets minus 3000 DP for the turn, so it's just adding to the overall control possibilities while having us have access at another way at suspending our Tamers down. So if we have a full line of Marcuses, we could use that to gain memory or Digivolve again into another higher stage Digimon. Then that all turns inheritable ability is the exact same as what we've been seeing with the other ShineGreymon, so it just allows us to have more ways at seeing this ability. And then the last ShineGreymon is, again, another tech or flex spot, just like BT17, but I still really do like running 1 copy of the BT9 ShineGreymon X Antibody. So not only could I use this as a Digivolution point on our level 4s, I could use this as a Digivolution point on our level 5s as well, so it could kind of help us against some de-Digivolve type of effects, while still being able to keep those inheritables around to protect our Marcuses and still have basically a pseudo level 6. So what this card is doing is similar to what BT13 Rise is doing, where we just get to play a red or yellow Tamer from our hand for free, which is just really good at having the ability to just flood the field with our Tamers, which is what we want because we have all this extra ways on being able to use them. Then if ShineGreymon or X Antibody is in this Digimon's Digivolution source, one of the opponent's Digimon gets minus 2000 DP for the turn for each red and or yellow Tamer that we have in play. So obviously the more Tamers we have, the bigger the DP reduction that we could get off of this ability for even more control. Then this card also is aggressive, kind of similar to BT17, where for each Tamer that we have in play, this Digimon gets an extra 1000 DP, so the more Tamers we have, the stronger this card could potentially be if we need to start being aggressive with our level 5s. And then when it comes to the level 6s, I'm just going to be keeping it simple and running 3 of each of the good ShineGreymons. So obviously the more aggressive one is going to be the BT12 ShineGreymon, because during all turns, all of our Marcuses get plus 3000 DP and security attack plus 1, so we could try to punch the opponent's security really hard with our Tamers, and we don't care if our Tamers die, because most likely they'll just go back into our security, and if they live, then we could utilize them again and again or for various other things. Then it's when Digivolving abilities actually supporting that ability to make our Marcuses stronger, where for each red and Tamer we have in play, one of the opponent's Digimon and all of the opponent's security Digimon get minus 3000 DP for the turn, so between all of our different DP reductions, we could really make their security super weak and vulnerable to even our smallest things, which just helps facilitate Marcus punching as hard as possibly can, increasing his overall rate of survival while still controlling the field at the same time. Then the other ShineGreymon that I'm going to be running is going to be 3 copies of the brand new BT17 ShineGreymon. So BT17 ShineGreymon is basically the defensive backbone for the deck because this card is actually just that hard to get rid of. So its when Digivolving ability is pretty simple, where we just get to play a Marcus for free for, again, just more Tamer swarming. Then its all turns ability actually supports us wanting to have a whole bunch of Tamers, where it is the protection that the deck was needing when this Digimon would leave the battle area by an opponent's effect. Then we get to return one of your yellow Tamers back into our hand to prevent him from leaving the field. So it's just a really easy card to use to just make sure that we're going to have a sticky body. So there are a couple of ways around this. It's just not all decks actually have access at those. So it kind of does make it a little bit more matchup dependent, but the fact that we do have just the ability to keep a Digimon around, let alone a level 6 Digimon around, even though he's not doing a whole lot himself, he could still be pretty threatening. So we already knew we were going to be running at least 2 copies of ShineGreymon Burst Mode from BT13 because, again, this is a more aggressively focused card. So we get to bounce one of our Marcuses to be able to Digivolve into this card for free, utilizing that Burst Digivolution ability. It does de-Digivolve himself back into whatever's underneath him, which ideally is going to be a ShineGreymon at the end of the turn, but that doesn't necessarily matter, especially if we have good offense and defense on both of our ShineGreymons. So when we Digivolve into this card, we also get to play a Marcus from our hand for free, which is essentially replacing the one that we just bounced utilizing that Burst Digivolution. And then we get to have the Tamer that was played off of this have a DP base of 12,000. It can't Digivolve, but it does gain Rush, so that way we could actually use it to swing and aggress with. Then, during our turn, once per turn, when one of our Tamers becomes suspended, we also get to trash the top card of the opponent's security stack, so we're ideally going to leave our ShineGreymon out just sitting and chilling on the field, swing with our Marcus, chip the opponent's security, chip the security with our Marcus, and that's 2 damage before ShineGreymon Burst Mode even started swinging, on top of anything else that's already happened. And then as far as the, again, more defensive side of things, this is where we're going to be running 1 copy of ShineGreymon Burst Mode Ace. So if we need to try to be aggressive and we're unable to close out the game, we could still ShineGreymon Burst Mode to then de-Digivolve our Digimon back into a ShineGreymon and line up a Burst Mode Ace, or just leave our ShineGreymon on the field and threaten the Ace anyway, because this card is still just kind of nutty. So it being an Ace Digimon can Digivolve on the opponent's turn for free, but it has a nice on-play and when Digivolving ability to play a Tamer from our hand for free, which ideally is going to be our Marcus, and then one of the opponent's Digimon gets minus 5,000 DP for each Tamer we have on our field. So if they're going to swing into us, then it's going to reduce their Digimon down to nothing during their turn, thus ruining their play. And during our turn, we could use it aggressively to just try to get rid of problematic Digimon we need gone so we could start aggressing with. Then he even has a nice when attacking ability of his own, where we get to suspend up to 2 of our yellow Tamers down, and for each one we suspended, this Digimon gains security attack +1, so he can punch for quite a lot, and this is where the kind of shift in playstyle is, where the other one is wanting our Tamers to attack first before the Burst Mode, where Burst Mode Ace is wanting to attack before the Tamer. Then when it comes to the Tamers, I'm just keeping it simple and running nothing but Marcuses. So I'm going to be running 4 copies of the BT12 Marcus, because this is the best Marcus compared to all of the others. So he can make himself into a Digimon as long as we have an Agumon or Greymon in play, and we just pay 1 memory. He'll be treated as a Digimon with 3,000 DP. Which is good because that lines up his ability himself without the need of anything else, where during your turn, when this Tamer becomes suspended, then we get to have one of our Digimon Digivolve into a yellow card with Greymon in its name for free. So this is the ability that's making this better than every other Marcus, is just that free evolution, and now the fact that we don't actually need to turn him into a Digimon to be able to gain access at this effect just makes this card even better. Then I'm going to be running 3 copies of the BT13 Marcus because, again, this is the second best Marcus, so we're just going to be running him in the second highest quantity. So this is going to be the dedicated memory setter for the deck, so that way we're always going to be at least 3 memory to make our plays possible. He has the on-play ability to suspend himself, which seems counterintuitive, but that feeds into his all turns ability, where when he becomes suspended, one of the opponent's Digimon gets minus 3,000 DP, and if we we have an Agumon and Greymon in its name in play, we also get to gain a memory. So he basically is just gaining us a memory and removing a small body, or just contributing to removing a bigger body. And then the last Marcus is going to be 2 copies of the BT17 Marcus. This is a pretty decent card, not only just for the defense, but for having extra offense as well, because its on-play ability states that until the end of the opponent's turn, one of our Marcus Daemons, doesn't even have to be this card, is treated as a 3000 DP Digimon and has blocker. So ideally, we're going to use this mostly to try to finish off the games by playing it, making a different Marcus that actually can attack into an attacker, and that's what we're going to be using. But if we need it to stop some aggression, then we could also leave it up as a blocker as well. And its all turns ability is almost the exact same thing as the BT13 Marcus, where we still get to gain a memory if we have an Agumon or Greymon on our field when this tamer becomes suspended, but instead of minusing 3000 DP to one of the opponent's Digimon, it's giving one of our Digimon plus 3000 DP, which could be itself or whatever we're making into the blocker, so that way it's going to be a 6k blocker instead of a 3k blocker. So there's just tons of flexibility on how we could utilize this card, and in combination with the rest of our Marcuses, making it still a vital piece of the deck. And then when it comes to the options, this is where things were cut a little bit slim, just because we don't necessarily need to run a whole bunch of removal, but you could run removal if you really wanted to, and instead I'm just electing to run 4 copies of Physical Training just to try to up the overall consistency of the deck, because everything in the deck is part yellow, so it could search for everything in the deck, which is really good, and the delay ability helps us reduce the cost of our Digivolution, so we could try to climb into our higher stages that much faster. And for the most part, this is just my interpretation of the deck. I do think that the deck does have lots of legs, and it's still a very strong and powerful deck, just because of all of the different mechanics in play for both offensive and defensive plays, making it way less linear than it's ever been before, which makes it more fun and enjoyable to play. And it's not like this is the only variation of the deck. We still have lots of different tech and tools that we could think about utilizing, all depending on where the meta is, what cards you have access to, and what you want to prioritize playing. And as far as some potential future upgrades, we don't necessarily know when ShineGreymon is going to get support next, but we could still utilize generically good yellow or red cards to further enhance what this deck is able to do and what it's capable of. But that's all I really have for this video, so feel free to tell me your thoughts about the deck down in the comments below, and if you found this video to be helpful and informative, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and with that, I will see you in the next video.